I was born in Pocahontas, Virginia. It's a coal mining area. Father worked in the coal mines. I grew up learning about the need to try to be frugal. Did pretty well in school. I was salutatorian in my class, and I was just barely too young to get in World War II. Not a lot of people were going to college at that time. Hokey, 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 hi. Tex, tex, VPI. Solar X, Solar I, Politics, Virginia. I was introduced to Virginia Tech primarily looking at College of Engineering. I took away a sense of loyalty. I took away a sense of trust. I believe that it was a school that provided me with not only an education, but an education in how to deal with people. I went to work as a design engineer at Allison Division of General Motors, which was the jet engine division. I went from Allison to Rochester, New York, still with General Motors, to work with Delco. They've had a terrible winter. The accumulation of snow was as high as it had ever been. And I decided, man doesn't have to live like this. So I was looking to get out of Rochester. I went to the railroad when I went back to Indianapolis. It's a 24/7 operation, and it's one that really requires you to be attentive at all times. It's very similar to healthcare when you think about it. And that led me to community hospital for interviews and ultimately deciding to change from the railroad business to another business.
Bethesda North may not be here today if it wasn't for Tom Wilburn. A lot of people had opportunities to go out to that part of this community, Montgomery, Blue Ash area, to establish a new hospital. Nobody wanted to pursue it. It was too risky. He was courageous. He was not afraid to take chances on things. One of the things that I always respected in Tom was, if you're going to make a decision and you're going to try something, then give it everything you got. If you're going to fail, fail because it just didn't work, not because you didn't give it enough time or resources or energy to get it done.
My first interview at Bethesda was with Jake Davis, chairman of the executive committee of the board. As we were talking about this job, he said, I've had a lot of people contact me and talk to me and tell me that you have to have a master's in health administration to get this job done. He said, what's your answer to that? And I said, my answer, Jake, is that you may have to have it to get it, but you don't have to have it to do it. And Jake said to me, you're the first SOB that I've run into that stated things that plainly.
So in the mid-1990s in the greater Cincinnati hospital market, there was a lot of turbulence. We were all undergoing a lot of financial stress. Something had to change. And Tom and Sister Myra James at Good Samaritan Hospital, they got together and decided to form TriHealth.
I've always said the only thing we got to sell is service. And if it's not the best you can find, then we shouldn't be getting business. I've said many times as well that you build organizations to last. I soon reached the realization that in order to last, you had to learn to change. So that if you don't change, you can't last.
Good to see you again. Thank you. Good to see you.
Tom used to always say, you got to do well to do good. You don't go into healthcare because you want to produce a good bottom line. You produce a good bottom line because that helps you to achieve your mission, which is to help people in need and to improve their health.
Hi, Mr. Wilburn. Mr. Wilburn, nice to
He led the way with a lot of firsts in this community, which we kind of take for granted now. Hospice of Cincinnati was, I think, the 4th hospice in the United States. He started corporate health services at Bethesda. He was instrumental in recruiting the top people to help establish the Health Collaborative.
And I've always believed that you have to work on the right things and not just necessarily doing things right.
I met Thomas in a drugstore next door to the bank that I worked at, and the lady that I worked with introduced us, and I thought, he's pretty nice looking.
My dad and I met Santa Lee at the same time, and we're driving home, and my dad said to me, he said, why don't you bring somebody that's got a lot of life like she has around rather than these deadheads that you've been bringing. And I took it to heart.
He is a very intelligent person, a very caring person, and a wonderful father and a husband. I have never heard one thing unpleasant said about Thomas, except when I'm fussing at him.
The family is always, I think, one of the most important things. And Santa and I have 16 great-grandchildren, 8 grandchildren is our total right now. We lost a son when he was 10. Kevin was an unusual kid. He was physically handicapped. Mentally, he was outstanding. He was a kid that could teach you all kinds of things because he never thought of himself as handicapped.
When he came home, he never talked about his work. It was always just whatever the family had to have done or the things that we did together. In fact, the kids basically really didn't know much about what he did do. But he came home, he was a husband and a father.
I think the reason that Tom is a great living Cincinnatian is because he had the courage and the foresight and the values and the integrity to live out his beliefs and to take his talents and change a major sector of this community.
Well, as the kids would say, is awesome. And having the opportunity to work here has been one of the highlights of my life. I wouldn't look for another career like the one I had.